This NFL star had to deal with his ex-wife's new boyfriend scamming him, and now it's her who's scamming him. He once went viral for his social media post gushing about his wife and called America's kindest husband, but he ended up being a complete psychopath. And this lady's housekeeper secretly kidnapped her and tased her repeatedly. What are some of the scariest crimes that can happen to anyone? Let's find out, starting with number 5, the Troublesome Ex. Earl Thomas, once a celebrated NFL star known for his time with the Seattle Seahawks' iconic Legion of Boom defense, is getting hit with a ton of personal and financial crisis. His troubles show how difficult it can be to fully separate from past relationships, with his estranged wife, Nina Thomas, being charged in an alleged scheme to defraud him of $2.7 million. This follows an earlier scam we covered involving Nina's boyfriend, who allegedly stole $1.9 million by exploiting Thomas's identity. You'd think she'd be done, but nope. She's back at it again. This isn't the first time Earl's turbulent relationship history has been in the news. Back in 2020, Nina Thomas was arrested after reportedly pointing a loaded firearm at Earl when she discovered him in bed with another woman. Later that year, she filed for divorce, setting off years of legal and personal battles that don't seem like they're going to end anytime soon. In 2023, Nina's new boyfriend, Kevin J. Thompson, was arrested for identity theft and financial fraud, marking the start of a series of criminal cases tied to Thomas's finances and ex-partner. Now Nina is accused of conspiring with yet another individual to steal millions from Earl through fraudulent bank transfers and lavish purchases, including designer handbags and cosmetic surgery. Despite the legal trouble surrounding her, Nina continues to maintain a social media presence, though she hasn't addressed the allegations publicly. Apparently, Nina holds a grudge. Earl Thomas's personal struggles go beyond his rocky relationships. His NFL exit was equally dramatic. After a decade in the league, primarily with the Seahawks, where he became a 3-time All-Pro and Super Bowl champion, Thomas's career abruptly ended following a single season with the Baltimore Ravens in 2019. The Ravens terminated his contract before the 2020 season, citing personal conduct that adversely affected the team. It eventually came out that some teammates saw Thomas as uncoachable, with issues ranging from missed meetings to friction within the locker room. The challenges in his personal life seemed to mirror his professional decline. In 2021, Thomas violated a protective order that required communication with Nina to occur only through a co-parenting app. His refusal to comply and subsequent behavior led to multiple arrests. Adding to his woes, his home in Orange County, Texas was destroyed by fire in 2022, leaving him with a total loss. Thomas's case shows how difficult it can be to fully leave behind a relationship, particularly one marred by such a volatile history. From the boyfriend's financial scam to the ex-wife's alleged fraud, Thomas's post-NFL life has been riddled with personal and legal battles that show no signs of stopping. It's rough that Thomas seems to be continually victimized by his ex, but judging by his struggles with personal relationships on and off the field, you can't help but acknowledge that he's likely playing his own part in the drama. It's important to remember that we shouldn't be so careless with other people's feelings and emotions, especially if they're passionate people, because that passion can flow both ways equally. Number 4. The Psychopath in Disguise. Timothy Murphy Johnson was once celebrated as a model husband after a viral post highlighted a list of reasons he adored his wife Molly. However, beneath the surface of their seemingly ideal relationship, a harrowing story of control and manipulation unfolded, leaving a tragic legacy that raised unsettling questions about Molly's untimely passing in 2017. Timothy had met Molly back in 2012 through an online dating site, and the couple married shortly after. Despite her academic brilliance and creative talents, Molly's life took a sharp downturn after meeting Timothy. Friends and family grew concerned about the relationship, noting significant changes in her demeanor and life choices. By 2017, 5 years later, Molly had confided in friends about the dark side of her marriage, describing coercion, exploitation, and repeated threats from her husband. Court filings detailed allegations that Timothy had used substances and intimidation to maintain control over her, even going so far as to suggest he could orchestrate her passing to make it look like she did it herself. Although Molly filed for a restraining order, she ultimately withdrew her application, reportedly out of fear. Tragically, Molly was found lifeless in her bedroom in December of 2017, with authorities initially attributing her passing to an accidental overdose. Friends and family, however, were skeptical, noting that the level of substances in her system was inconsistent with typical cases of a self-inflicted overdose. Additionally, Molly's history of photographing injuries and seeking help pointed to a pattern of mistreatment rather than a voluntary descent into substance misuse. The chilling details of Timothy's later crimes further deepened suspicions about his involvement in Molly's passing. In 2024, he was sentenced to life imprisonment for the exploitation and prolonged mistreatment of a minor, a case that shocked authorities with its brutality. These revelations caused Molly's loved ones to revisit the circumstances surrounding her passing, drawing parallels between his behavior in both instances. Adding to these concerns, Hannah Olin, who was briefly married to Murphy Johnson before Molly, has shared her own experiences of mistreatment. She described enduring coercion and emotional manipulation during their marriage, which further bolstered claims about his dangerous and controlling tendencies. Her account, combined with Molly's own documented allegations, paints a troubling picture of a man who wielded power over vulnerable individuals in alarming ways. Molly's father and friends have continued to advocate for a deeper investigation into her passing, though sadly, no progress has been made as of the release of this video. While some of Timothy's relatives dismiss the allegations as baseless, those closest to Molly remain resolute, believing her story is a powerful testament to the silent suffering endured by many in manipulative relationships. It's scary to think that someone could wear a mask so convincing that the world saw him as America's kindest husband, all while hiding something truly monstrous. The most frightening part is how easily he fooled everyone, even to the point where an investigation into Molly's passing hasn't moved forward. Thankfully, Timothy Murphy Johnson is now locked away for life, albeit for an unrelated case, ensuring he can no longer harm others. For most, that resolution is enough, but for Molly's loved ones, the symbolic sense of justice, acknowledging the truth about what happened to her, still matters deeply. Number 3. Another psychopath in disguise. California man Huang Ting Gong is facing charges for orchestrating a scheme involving putting a business associate and his wife 6 feet deep. Prosecutors allege that Gong owed $80,000 to his associate Quan Lin Wang and came up with a plan to eliminate the debt in the most extreme way possible. Investigators claim Gong had arranged to meet up with Wang in a remote area out in the desert under the guise of resolving some debt. Should any legitimate business meeting need to take place in a remote desert area? But instead of resolving the debt, Wang was taken out with a firearm. Gong then took Wang's remains back to the associate's residence, where Wang lived with his wife, Jing Li. There, Gong confronted Li, forcing her to unlock her phone. Prosecutors allege that he was likely trying to obtain critical information about the couple's finances or banking details. Li was then brought out to the desert, where her life ended in a similar manner to her husband's. In an effort to erase evidence, Gong allegedly burned both Wang and Li's remains and their vehicles at separate remote locations. However, his actions didn't end there. Days later, he reportedly returned to the victim's home and stole approximately $250,000 worth of luxury items, including watches, handbags, and clothing. Gong was finally investigated when Wang's family reported him missing after several days without contact, which was unusual. The family had reached out to Gong, who said that the couple had left for a trip to meet another business associate who would help settle the debt, which seemed a bit suspicious. However, this story became even more suspicious when a concerned family member who had access to the home's security cameras noticed footage of a man matching Gong's description at the victim's residence. This discovery concerned the family member, especially since Gong had claimed the couple was out of town. Shortly after this unsettling observation, the family member was abruptly locked out of the surveillance system, leading to police being called. Following an investigation, Gong was arrested at an airport after returning from a trip out of state and, as of the release of this video, is facing multiple charges, with prosecutors considering whether to pursue the ultimate penalty. We've all seen enough movies to know that resolving debts in the middle of a desert rarely ends well, and it's almost never with the money repaid in full. While Wang couldn't have foreseen what would happen, the situation shows how trusting the wrong person can lead to tragic consequences. Gong's actions were shockingly brutal, and it's heartbreaking to see the extremes people can go to over money. Number 2. Kidnapped au pairs. Heiress Knight Arkin Everett Winfrey, a 32-year-old from East Lansing, Michigan, is now serving a life sentence for exploiting multiple individuals through deceit and manipulation. He used social media and the website aupair.com, which connects families with individuals seeking live-in childcare positions, to lure his victims with fake job offers. An au pair is typically a young person between 17 and 30, usually from another country, who lives with a host family providing childcare in exchange for room and board. Winfrey claimed he needed a live-in childcare provider for his niece, but once his victims arrived, he used their isolation and trust against them, transforming what should have been a basic nanny-type job into a carefully planned trap. In 2022, Winfrey targeted multiple victims, including 2 minors, by fabricating elaborate stories to gain their trust. One victim, identified as SD, traveled from Italy to Michigan after being promised a job caring for his niece. Once there, she reported being restrained and forced to follow some terrible demands. However, she managed to convince him to let her leave, so he drove her to a bus station late at night, taking her money and phone's SIM card before leaving her. SD eventually returned to Italy, where she sought medical attention and reported the incident to the police. Another victim, known only as AS, was an 18-year-old from Kansas, also answered a similar job posting. She quickly became uncomfortable after noticing inconsistencies at Winfrey's home, such as covered windows and cameras. Thankfully, AS was able to leave safely with the help of her family and local authorities. Investigators uncovered even more evidence, revealing Winfrey's interactions with 2 minors. He apparently used social media to contact them, gaining their trust before trying to get some inappropriate pictures and arranging meetings. The investigation uncovered communications, digital evidence, and other items further linking Winfrey to these interactions. Authorities, including the FBI and East Lansing Police, emphasized that Winfrey's sentence reflects the seriousness of his behavior and provides justice for the survivors. This case is a good reminder of the importance of caution when talking with strangers online, particularly through job-related platforms. Winfrey's deserved life sentence guarantees that he will no longer pose a threat to anyone, and sends a strong message about protecting vulnerable individuals and addressing exploitation. For those using platforms such as aupair.com, it's critical to verify the legitimacy of offers and take precautions when traveling for work opportunities. The wonderful thing about the internet is that it offers countless opportunities, but it also opens the door to those who prey on others' trust. It's important to remember that behind every profile could be someone with bad intentions, making vigilance and caution more critical than ever. Number 1. The evil Scorned Housekeeper. A mother's good deed turned into a nightmare when she was ambushed, tasered over 30 times, and forced into a fight for her life, all masterminded by her former housekeeper. Erin Quinn thought she was collecting toys for a holiday drive when she was lured to an address by someone posing as an elderly donor. What she walked into was a terrifying trap. Aaron had volunteered for a local community Christmas toy drive and received a message from someone claiming to be Connie, an elderly woman eager to donate some toys. The exchange led her to a nearby address, but what awaited her was no act of generosity. Quinn's visit quickly spiraled into chaos. After arriving at the address, she got a text telling her to wait in her car, where she was ambushed by a woman disguised in a blonde wig. Her attacker, later identified as Olga Mendez, allegedly tasered Quinn multiple times and forced her to drive. Quinn, who was driving while being tased, which would expectedly be a struggle, eventually crashed the vehicle after almost a seemingly never-ending half hour. The crash set off a physical struggle, during which Quinn actually bit part of Mendez's finger off in an effort to defend herself. A bystander eventually intervened, giving Mendez the chance to flee. The situation revealed a surprising connection. Quinn recognized her attacker as her former housekeeper. Mendez, who had once received housing and financial help from Quinn and her mother, hadn't been in contact for months. According to Quinn, the incident was premeditated, with Mendez allegedly planning to take her to Mexico for ransom or sale. Law enforcement launched a manhunt following the incident, collecting evidence, including the wig and taser. Soon after, Mendez was arrested and booked on multiple charges. As of the release of this video, she's being held on $100,000 bail, with her next court appearance scheduled for early January 2025. Quinn, who's recovering from her extensive injuries, including burns, bruises, and missing hair, has set up a GoFundMe to cover her medical expenses and lost wages. The incident has left her dealing with physical and emotional scars, yet she remains determined to rebuild her life. In a message to supporters on her GoFundMe, she expressed gratitude for the community's support, describing the ordeal as a life-altering experience. It's scary to think that there doesn't appear to be any legitimate motive for Mendez's actions. No clear grievance to explain her actions. What makes it even more troubling is that Quinn and her mother had once supported Mendez out of kindness. It feels as though an act of generosity was twisted into an opportunity for harm, which is both infuriating and deeply disheartening. Click to watch one of these next videos.